Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Hart, and believe it or not, we're moving into the last few days of this course. I believe we're in week 9 right now, and we're going to be finishing up with week 10 at the end of next week. I wanted to give you a few comments in preparation for those last few days in the course because there's going to be a lot of work to be done. It's very important that you get it in on time. And I wanted to give you some perspective on the reason for doing some of these assignments. First of all, everything needs to be submitted by the end of the day, Friday. I believe it's March 18th. Check the time at which you're supposed to submit the work. I'm going to make sure that the time is set at 11:59 p.m. I believe it's going to be Central Daylight Time a week from Friday because I want to give you the full day and into the evening. I know some of you work during the day and you need that extra time of Friday evening to get your work done. But be sure to check the time and the date for the due dates and times for the final assignment. It's very possible that some of you may be going to be posting drafts of your agenda and your leader guide, at least I hope so, sometime soon. And it's going to be very important that you write this leader guide with a novice presenter in mind, not yourself. You're probably going to know quite a bit about the subject, and you may have already done presentations on the subject. So that's perfectly fine. But the idea, and I believe I explained this in an earlier video, but I just want to reemphasize this to you. The idea is that this is a very realistic situation in business, particularly in large training departments or in training departments that are tasked with creating training materials that are then turned over to a non-trainer. I was a training manager in a refinery for a while, and this was a very common model in that refinery, is that we in the training department would create these materials, but then we would turn them over to people who were literally coming off of the refinery equipment and doing training for their fellow employees. So they weren't trained trainers. And so as a result, they might know an awful lot about the subject, but they didn't know very much about how to present. So we had to create very detailed agendas for these non-professional trainers about how to do their sessions. And this is just one of many examples of this kind of model that's adopted by many organizations. Many organizations choose not to have really large training departments. They want to have people who are down in the trenches doing the training. They see training, giving these people down in the trenches training opportunities as a opportunity for professional development and growth. So the idea here is that you're going to have to create this agenda in a very detailed form so that these non-professional trainers can actually follow the instructions very closely when they have to do their presentations and they have to do their training sessions. So, as I said, I know that this may seem unusual to you, but it's actually very realistic. And so I want you to keep that idea in mind when you're creating the final materials that you're going to be submitting for your final grade for this course. Keep in mind that you're going to have to create a training intervention, a non-training intervention, and then also you're going to have to create the e-learning intervention, or at least a good detailed outline of how that e-learning intervention is going to work. We used to have people actually create an e-learning module. We don't do that anymore, but you still have to write out a fairly detailed description of what that e-learning element might look like. So watch for those due dates very carefully. Watch for the assignment requirements very carefully. And then next Friday on March 18th, all of your work's going to have to be done. One more comment is that you also actually need to do the stand-up instruction part of this final assignment. You actually have to do it. Not write about it, but actually carry out the training. Now, some of you may have in mind hours and hours and hours of training. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for roughly a 60 to 90 minute training session that you are going to facilitate, okay? So this would be maybe part of a much longer training session or a module in a longer training session, okay? But you are going to actually have to do the training. This is, I know, one of the only courses in our specialization where you actually have to demonstrate that you can do training. And in fact, my experience with undergraduate and graduate courses in training is that it's not unusual to have people go all the way through these courses never having actually demonstrated that they can train. So we're going against that. We're saying, yeah, you actually have to demonstrate that you can actually train, okay? So find a group of people that you can practice with. Doesn't have to be a large group of people at all, but it should be a group of people who can give you feedback and give you a sense for how well you've done on actually doing a stand-up instruction, okay? So keep all those ideas in mind. A lot of things, a lot of moving parts, a lot of things to keep in mind. This is sort of the capstone of the whole training sequence in training and performance improvement. We have a few final courses, of course, the return on investment course, I believe. And then if you're in the master's program, you actually do have a capstone activity. But this course, ED 7672, is really sort of the whole sum of all of our other courses. So please keep that in mind, okay? So I'm looking forward to seeing your work in the last few days of the course. Let me know if there's anything that I can do to help you complete that work before the end of the quarter, which will be March 18th. Okay? Thank you.